effectively engage with stakeholders. I believe most of you who are doing project management understand this principle day in, day out, because you need to work with the stakeholders all the time. Now, who are the stakeholders and how possibly we can engage with them effectively? The stakeholders are those individuals or groups who might be affecting your project or maybe getting impacted or affected by your project related activities. Sometimes they may even perceive that they are getting impacted by the project objective. They might be positively impacted by project activities or project outcome, or they might be negatively impacted by project outcomes as well. So, these are the people or the groups who are interested party, and that is why we call them stakeholders. They have some stake in your project related activities. Now, we want to keep them managed, satisfied, and that is why we have a principle which is saying engage stakeholders proactively and to the degree needed to contribute to the project success and the customer satisfaction. So, what does it mean? We may not be able to give the same amount of attention to all the possible stakeholders. We need to identify at what level we need to engage and manage those individuals so that we can achieve the optimum customer satisfaction or a stakeholder satisfaction for our project. Now, let us understand little bit more in detail. You might think, what is an impact if I do not care about the stakeholders? Now, stakeholders impact each and every activity or area of your project management. Say you want to do scoping, you need to understand what kind of expectations and requirement your stakeholder has. You are not making project for yourself, you are making for someone, and you need to understand that someone's needs and expectation, and that someone is called stakeholder. There will be some other groups who will allow you or block you from serving your customer, maybe government, law enforcement agencies, etc. They are also your stakeholder. There are some other stakeholders who will facilitate you to discover information related to your project or your target segment. They are also your stakeholders. So, they impact your scope pretty much. They impact your schedule also. Some stakeholder may give you a desired window in which you can do some things. You may not be able to update things whenever you want. So, they may have their milestones, they may have some expectations, there could be a government restriction, you need to finish this whole thing before the end of a financial years. So, they impact your schedule, they impact your cost because your project needs money. Who gives you money? Yeah, the stakeholder directly or indirectly, some set of stakeholder, not all, funds your project. So, they definitely impact your budgeting decision. Now, why they are funding you? Because they want something from this project. So, the benefit which you produce from this project, the outcome which is expected as a result of this project is defined by stakeholders. Again, not all stakeholders are same. Some stakeholders drives the benefit, some stakeholders limits your option, some stakeholders just remain aware or vigilant about what you are doing. So, the way you manage your project, the way you see the success, the amount of risk you are expected to take for project success, all required stakeholder intervention. So, it might be fair to say that there is no aspect of project management which does not get impacted by the stakeholders. Now, the stakeholders can get identified at any point in time in your project. So, we can say, so we have a project life cycle just for a visualization perspective. In the beginning, we will identify the stakeholders. The sooner you identify those parties who has interest in you, the better it is. But at the same time, these parties will keep coming and going. Yeah, there will be probably a change of government, there will be probably a change of your management, there might be an involvement of manufacturer, a vendor, supplier, or someone who provides training at a later stage. So, we need to identify stakeholders, but at the same time the stakeholder identification is a continuous activity. You at any point in time, whenever you do a stakeholder identification, you want to be as comprehensive as possible. You are not saying, oh, I will take care of them later, but at the same time you can't visualize all the parties and individuals, and their engagement level also changes. Say, I am making a robot for a factory. When I am initially talking about that robot and design, I might be too much engaging with those people who are helping me in designing the robot. But at the later stage, I might be engaging more with those people who will help me in making this robot acceptable at a factory floor. So, later stage I might be working too much with the the floormen or the people who are taking care of that particular factory unit, whereas in initial stage I was working with the design engineers who helped me in creating a robust robot who can run for 12 hours without getting recharged, something like that. So, those expectations and stages of your project require different stakeholders having different level of engagement, and again some identification can happen at a later stage as well. So, stakeholder identification is a continuous process. That is something we need to learn from this particular principle. The another thing is we have a special stakeholder group which is, we call it team. Now, project team is also a stakeholder. Now, that sometimes becomes confusing, should I call it project team or should I call it stakeholder? What we should think is the stakeholder is an umbrella term. Anyone who is impacting or getting affected by our project is a stakeholder, whereas a project team is a special group of stakeholders who are working together to achieve project objectives. They are helping, they are kind of helping the other stakeholders to achieve the project objective by way of doing the project work. They themselves are also getting impacted by the project work. The expectation, the other stakeholders are changing, this project team also get impacted, but we should consider the project team as a part of stakeholders. Yeah. So, please keep in mind whenever you are dealing with the project management things, overall stakeholder terms includes project team as well, whereas for project team we have a separate processes and mechanism to create a self-organized and productive teams, but they are also part of overall group of stakeholders. So, you have identified stakeholders, you have also learned about a particular group called say project team. The later stakeholder may also vary in their engagement level. There are some stakeholders who are highly interested in this project because they are putting their money into it. Yeah, they are the one who will get results out of it. There could be other stakeholders who are just want to loosely want to know what is happening here. They may not be having their own much money involved in this particular initiative. So, we need to understand different stakeholder and different stakeholder engagement level. Say you are getting a bridge made in your locality, there is a new flyover is getting made. The government agencies are definitely a stakeholder. The builder who is building the project is definitely wants to know their project team is building the right bridge. The people who are living nearby are more interested when this bridge gets over. The people who are living 1 kilometer away may be less interested, and people who are living maybe 1,000 meter away, 1,000 kilometer away may be very least interested about it. But if something goes wrong, they may also want to be aware that okay, how many new bridge has been made in our city. So, something like that. So, depending upon how much impact you are making, what are kind of a stake you have, your engagement level will change, and that is what we as a project manager need to do, identify those stakeholders who are critically involved, and we need to ensure that we engage with them pretty well. Now, here comes the topic of engagement. Yeah. So, the whole idea of this particular principle is engage stakeholders proactively and to the degree needed to contribute to the project success and customer satisfaction. So, that is what we were talking. We learn about stakeholder, we learn they are impacting everything, and we learn about various stages where they may get identified. Engagement. Now, the idea of engagement is communicating with the stakeholders very frequently, and communication and engagement goes hand in hand. But many times people get confused considering communication equals to engagement, which may not be true. Engagement is how much I am involved in that particular project success, how I am thinking about it, how I am passionate about it, what all stake I have. Definitely I may use a mean of communication in order to express myself, but am I engaged in providing suggestion? Am I engaged in providing or solving some of the critical issue which my project teams are facing? Am I engaged in getting more money? Am I engaged in facilitating some kind of approvals and resolving impediment whenever the project team is facing an issue? So, engagement is something we need to decide based on different level of stakeholders who are more engaged, who are expected to be more engaged, and we need to find as a project leader mechanism to engage with these stakeholders frequently. Now, in order to do that, your interpersonal skills will play a critical role. Now, we learn about the diligent, respectful, caring steward. So, it is all about interpersonal skills. You need to be trustworthy, you need to be demonstrating transparency in your behavior, you should be engaging people in a positive way so that overall project outcome can be achieved, always focusing on project outcome. So, applying a good amount of emotional intelligence, listening and communication skills improves your engagement. So, as a project leader, we need to apply our interpersonal skills, which includes empathy, which includes integrity, which includes a caring stewardship is something help us in engaging with our stakeholders. Now, when we do that, well, what happens? It creates shared understanding. The more and more we are engaging with the stakeholders, we have a common understanding of the project outcome, the project challenges, the project constraints. We are together. It's not like only project team is working to achieve the project success. They are also engaged. And many of those stakeholders wants to get engaged, provided we give them a right platform. So, many times as a project manager or a project leader, you start thinking, I am the one who will talk to the stakeholder, and that is the best way of handling it, and I will give my team the desired information. In today's work, that is not going to a recommended strategy. The reason is the more and more we make stakeholder and team members engage with each other by way of doing joint problem solving, by way of doing joint lesson learned meeting, by way of doing joint stakeholder reviews or a milestone reviews, helping people to train together, communicate together, helps them to have a better interpersonal skills directly with the stakeholder, which creates better empathy for each other, which creates a shared understanding and help us in achieving our project objective. So, we as a project leader should promoting the shared understanding, and that leads to the better outcome, which is something we all are expecting. So, it's clear we spoke about it before, the difference between outcome and output. The output something which will keep varying. The team is producing the outcome, but outputs, but the outcome is something which is driven jointly with the stakeholder and the team. So, in order to produce a better outcome, the better the shared understanding we have, the better engagement we have is something help us in achieving the overall better outcome. So, if you look back and read the statement again, so that a clear understanding of engaging with stakeholder. So, engage stakeholder proactively and to the degree needed to contribute to the project success and customer satisfaction. That is the principle number 3 in your project management standard.